Okay, welcome to One Tough Podcast. I'm joined here as always with Carlo, who's my producer. Today we have a really good friend and a really special guest. And I tell you the honest truth, I'm jealous of him. Because if I was your size, man, I'd be one ass-kicking guy, man.
You already are, though.
I'm a midget, man.
But you already kick butt.
But my guy, he's a New York Giants legend. And we don't say that lightly. He is a legend. And he's an entrepreneur. And you want to know something? I go way, way, way back to the 1980s with him.
Yes.
And before they started winning, you won the first Super Bowl the weekend that my father died. So I won't forget that one. And that was 1987, but it was really 86.
Yes.
It was the 86 Super Bowl, but it was 87. And we had flown out to L.A.
Yes.
And my crew of guys, we used to always meet at a place called Marmondo's. It was the old Doral Hotel on 50th and
Crystal Steakhouse, right?
Crystal Steakhouse.
Yeah.
We used to play at both sides.
Yeah.
We started at Marmondo's, then we moved over to Crystal. Or we started at Crystal's, moved to Marmondo's.
Yes.
We were back and forth. So I used to put this luncheon together, and we used to invite a couple of the Giants every weekend, but Carl was there all the time. He was like one of the...
I was the host.
He was the host with the most. We used to have little Phil McConkey there, everybody. Lawrence Taylor, Pepper Johns, you name them, we got them. Phil Sims, everybody.
So before there were these chalk talks, it was Bo and I doing these lunches that we would... Corporate lunches were at another level.
Wow.
Prior to what they are now with Bo, like we had a who's who crowd. We could get any athlete to come. And during football season, it's not easy to get star players. We get anybody. I'd drop Bo's name and they'd show up. And but it was great meal, intimate setting amongst friends, so you could say and talk about just about anything you want. And we were ahead of our time.
You know what was great? It would be after the Sunday game, either I think Monday or Tuesday. I think
Monday.
It was Tuesday.
No, it was.
Was it Monday? Because if we had a Monday night game,
it would be on Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah. So we used to do that, and we have these business guys. I mean, who's who of business guys, and we would have a nice steak lunch. And we'd start drinking a little cocktails and shit. And then all of a sudden, it was great. It was back and forth. It was wonderful. It was a great idea. It lasted, I guess it had to last at least 5, 6 years.
About 5 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Then everybody else took off on it. Even Crane's Business didn't have that luncheon back then.
Wow.
Yeah, it was great. We had some really cool stuff. But who's the guy? Remember the bald head guy that LT signed his head with a Sharpie?
No, he died. The
he
little
did?
guy?
Yeah.
The little guy, yeah. He used to do a comedy club out of Brooklyn, and he was like, he passed away. Funny guy. And he was so enthralled with LT. He said, sign my head.
LT grabbed him and put him in a headlock, grabbed the permanent marker and signed his head.
Wow.
Really big, too.
He probably died with that thing in his head, too. And, I forget his name. Maybe I'll think of it as we're going along. But it would be very interesting. Before we go back there, let's start about you, because this is about Carl Banks. Carl Banks ain't just a legend in football. He's also a mentor to a lot of people. He's helped a lot of young people. And, a lot of these sports stars, they don't look back. They just look forward. He looked back. He helped a lot. He's always been there. Whenever I called upon Carl was there for any kind of charitable thing, and we're always there. Let's talk about it. So you grew up in Michigan.
Yeah. Flint, Michigan.
Flint.
Yeah.
Can't drink the friggin' water there now, right?
Well, it's unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. You've got, that's home. I mean, it's near and dear to me, and it's obviously a blue collar town. But what's happening there is a shame right now. Yeah. And I know you ran for elected.
I was a loser.
And you weren't a loser. You were probably fortunate enough not to win. The thing is, when elected officials don't serve the people and they make bad decisions contrary to the well-being of the communities that they're supposed to serve, it's a disgrace.
It is a disgrace. And that was one of the reasons why I ran for mayor of New York. This clown that we have as mayor, he's so corrupt and everything. And his values are just how much money you could get with people giving the money, what I could do, pay for play. I really love this city, and I love every person in the city. And when I ran, I'll never forget when I ran for United States Congress back in '86 against the Reverend Floyd Flake. You know, I used to go into Jamaica, Springfield Boulevard, Cambria Heights, black areas of South Queens, and then Floyd Flake, who became my very dear friend. I think he's kind of ill now, too. He'd say, man, Bo, you got some balls to come here, and everybody be booing me and everything. And I said, you can boo me all you want. I was a servant to the black community. I picked up 10 dead my last case. So you can run that shit to anybody you want. But I know the problems. I know the problems about young boys who don't have a father.
Sure.
I know the problem of kids not having any mentors. So in reality, I really absorbed all that. And one of the real fast stories was I was investigating the largest mass murder in New York history, 10 dead back then anyway, until these towelheads blew up the World Trade Centers. But this was 10 dead. And I'll never forget, I went in an apartment. There was these 3 young 7-year-old African-American boys, completely naked with feces all over them and all that. I went in, I pushed the door open. Now I'm investigating the murder of 10. So I see these kids. I said, where's your mother? It was foster kids. She went to the store. I opened up the refrigerator. There was nothing in there. So I waited. I'm getting calls from my lieutenant. You know, 10-1 means call the detective squad. And I waited for the mother to come home. Waited an hour. The mother came and I says, look, I'm a detective. I was a homicide detective. I'm a detective. If these kids ain't cleaned up and you don't have food in that refrigerator, I'll be back every week. I'm taking these kids to the Bureau of Child Welfare. And I wasn't kidding. So I get back to the station house. My lieutenant starts screaming at me. Where were you? I said, there was 3 young boys who were left alone, man. And he goes, you're a homicide detective. I said, that's the problem. I said, if I can give some sort of image that a detective and a cop is really someone out there to help you.
Yeah.
And the majority out there to help them. And then when they start turning on it, and I'll never forget when I ran for mayor of New York City, my friend Reverend Al Sharpton, we used to call him the Fat Rat, because when I was a detective, he was one of our informants. And I go to his action committee. He actually let me talk on his action committee that 2 years ago, and Jesse Jackson was on there before me, and all the people started booing. I did the same thing. I says, you can boo me all you want. I was a servant to the black community and the Hispanic community. I said, I know what the problems are. I know what the problems were then, and I know what the problems are now, and I want to help people. This ain't a game for me. I got a lot of money. I don't need to be mayor of this city, but I really love this city. And that was my whole life, and it's been there. And you want to know something? Just what I learned from running for mayor, how they utilized the Board of Election, and they took me off. I didn't even have a line. I couldn't be a Democrat, Republican. He made sure he had his general counsel, 3 lawyers in every court. They knocked me off for a technicality. And so when I ran, Carl, I looked for my name election day, and I couldn't find my name where all the counties were. On the bottom right, some Chinese guy underneath him was me. I couldn't even find my own damn name.
So they made you a write-in candidate almost, huh?
Almost, just about. And
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't find my own name. People called me up, "Bo, we can't find you." So I knew I was a goner. But in reality, I took my swings. And the best part of running for mayor, Carl, was when I said to him on CBS, my friend Maurice Dubois was the moderator. Maurice, a good friend. He lived in my building.
I know
90.
Maurice well, yeah.
I love Maurice. He goes, he was the moderator. He goes, well, Bo, you got 60 seconds. So I'm looking at de Blasio. I go, you know, Mr. Mayor, I've been a detective my whole life. And I know a criminal when I see one. And you're a criminal what you pay for playing and corruption. How much money do I have to give you to get something done in this city? The place went crazy. That was the best part of running for mayor, where I chopped him down. He would see me, he'd run the other way. He's 6'6", whatever.
Yeah.
He's got balls like BBs. He's not a man. He's got ball like BBs. And, you know, the corruption factor. So politics to me, you know, that's why
It's a contact sport.
I really like Bloomberg. Because Bloomberg's got $50 billion. He don't need to do it, but yet he was a very good mayor because he got things done. This clown gets nothing done. And as far as I'm concerned, we've signed away from there ain't no way in hell. It'll never happen. I'll never run for political office, ever, ever.
Well, obviously, you know, there's more than one way to serve your community, and
Yeah.
I think you've done that. You've got life experience doing it. So I would say, my good friend Bo, you've always been there for me. whenever I needed you for anything. And that's, that kind of is what fuels me to do well and do for other people who are less fortunate, because sometimes, even though wherever we are in our walks of life, and I've done pretty well for myself, we need help sometimes, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to have a resource to call on is great. But then, you have communities and people, or even, those who are afflicted with mental health issues. And I do a lot of work with autism. I have nephews who are autistic, and you just want to make sure that you can be a resource for people in any way you can within your capacity to do it, because I think to have the ability to help someone and not do it, it's just not.
Yeah, and I mean, and
not
even
cool.
when you have a lot of money, if you're not doing the right thing, one of my big issues, again, talk about mental health. I mean, when you look around the city, we have 60,000 homeless still. Nobody's dealing. The majority of them have mental health issues. And then when you get $1 billion in the last 4 years, with this Operation Thrive with Charlene de Blasio or McCrae, whatever her name is, and she can't explain what she did with the money. That kills me, because we certainly have to help the homeless, and especially with the majority of them being mentally ill. We must deal with it. My daughter, Dana, my little girl, she's a school teacher. She was up in the South Bronx. She just got over to Queens. She specializes in autism and children with mental disabilities. And then you have classrooms where you have a mentally ill kid. They can't take that kid out of the class and help them. He has to stay in there with 30 other children and disrupt them. That's not a good thing either.
No, it's not a good environment for either.
No, but you got to take him out, but not just take him out. You got to take him out and help him.
Yeah.
Him or her. And I get it. And truly, Carl, and you know me a lot of years, my intentions of being mayor of New York City was one reason, was to help people. And that was it. Not for my accolades. I've been with every president. I don't need pats on the back.
Sure.
And my big movie's coming out. The Irishman's coming out Friday. Major,
is it?
Major role I
Wait
got.
a minute, I didn't get a invite to the premiere. Carlo, what's going on? Am I like on a
tight ticket?
Tell them what kind of ticket it is. I didn't even have one.
Listen, tight ticket?
Tight ticket? I didn't have one.
Would you consider Rails a tight ticket?
Well,
for those who
this
don't
might
know,
be a little harder
for people
than
that don't know people, it's pretty hard to get in Rails. Right? I've never had a problem when I called Bo to get.
Now, Rails I can handle, but this thing became like a psycho city. But more important, let's go back to your roots, because you growing up in an area like Flint, which was a lot of poverty there, poor people. Let's say it.
Well,
like it
when
is.
General Motors moved out, it was not a lot left, and I think one plant still operates, and it's a shell of. It became a ghost town, and some kids that I end up while I was in middle school to high school were looking forward to graduating, going to get a job at General Motors, right?
Wow, and it dried up.
And all of that dried up. So, fortunately enough, I was able to go to Michigan State, get a college degree, and pursue a career in sports, and after sports, a career in communications that I got my degree in. But, it's tough,
Well, there's a lot of other kids that were there. And then, what happens, Carlo, in this, when you have an atmosphere where you can't work, you can't make money, then all of a sudden you see how you make quick money with these garbage drugs or whatever, and you turn to a life of crime sometimes. You're kind of forced into it.
So interesting you say that, and I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was the early 90s. But Flint, Michigan had a population of about 110,000 people, and it led the nation in crime and murder. And that was, I think that was in the early to mid 90s.
Oh,
and that's unfortunate, man.
It's directly correlated.
Yeah.
No work, no jobs, unemployment equals crime, I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
And I got to compliment one guy. I never met him. I don't think I met him. Maybe I did meet him. Is this dude from Detroit that does the loans?
Quicken Pay?
Quicken Loans. He's been specializing in making
Let me
that
tell you
city a
something.
great place.
You know, he
Detroit
owns
is
the-
on the upswing, man.
Well, he owns the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was at Michigan State when I was there.
Get out of town.
He was at Michigan State when I was there.
You know him?
I'm sure I do. I know him, but I don't know
But
him.
what he's doing, because I had a couple of cases over there in Michigan a few years ago. It was bad. And they didn't even have fire department to respond to a fire. Let me tell you, what he's doing, Carlo, is the epitome of bringing back Detroit.
Yeah,
I get the chills on my hair, whatever hair I get
Yeah,
left.
he's
Because he's
revitalizing the city.
revitalized.
Yeah.
And that's a guy that should get the Medal of Freedom, whatever medal that President Trump or whatever president is there. He deserves it because he's influxed from poverty. Now we got prosperity.
Yeah, Detroit's definitely on. It's almost turned the corner now.
Wow.
It's back.
Dan something's his
Yeah,
name.
yeah. What's his name?
Dan, I can't think of his last name.
Yeah. That's
Dan Gilbert.
Dan Gilbert.
Yeah.
That's the dude.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Dan. Make sure you send a little something from me to Dan Gilbert.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
Yeah, he's doing a great job, and I sent him a attaboy. Okay, so now you're playing for Michigan State.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I used to be a gambler. You remember that. You remember that. Thank God we stopped gambling.
Well,
I used
no,
to,
now you can gamble legally now because now they're
yeah,
legalizing
but remember
it for
my
sports.
friend Al Tomatoes?
Yeah.
Al Tomatoes, yeah.
Yeah.
So we used to be at my house in the Hamptons, and I'm embarrassed to tell you what kind of action I used to play.
I don't want to hear it.
On a Saturday.
I don't even want to hear it.
I was making a lot of money, and I was
don't wanna hear
I was
it.
like a guy that didn't know what the hell to do with the money. Instead of investing it properly, it was like, okay, give me $10,000 on Michigan State, and that was just a low bet, and I'd hit every one. Then I used to actually bet late at night on Saturday night the Far West games. I used to wake up the next morning looking just to break even, so I just paid a VIG. I had a 5% VIG, and then Sunday came.
Was this when I
NFL.
was playing in the pros or when I was in
Shit,
college?
yeah, it was. No, I was betting like a degeneration.
explains a
Yeah, but you
lot.
never gave me any good picks.
No, I never gave you any picks.
No.
But how about this? I'm laying on my couch. This is a true story. I'm laying on my couch, and I lived in Secaucus at the time. My phone rings, and someone says they're calling from the FBI, right? And
No,
I'm
they
like,
weren't on me.
no. And I'm like, yes, may I help you? This is a routine phone call, but your name was mentioned. The guy said he was, part of an organized crime unit or whatever. Your name was mentioned on a phone call we were listening to. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And he gave a few names. I'm like, I've never seen, heard, or he's like, okay. And I'm like, wait a minute, am I in any trouble? Because, at that time, the commissioner was like heavy-handed with gambling and all of that. And to this day, they still believe gambling within the sport would be the one thing that could take it down. All the other stuff, they can deal with drugs, they can deal with the violence, which they need to deal with better. But gambling, they say once that gets into the sport, it can take it down. So I was scared for my career, my life. I'm like, I've never had a call from the FBI for anything. And so as soon as they hung up, I called the NFL, the security guy, and I said, hey, look, what's going on? I just got a call. He said, let me look into it. They looked into it, and they're like, it's nothing. They just, guys talk, and they were talking about the Giants, and your name came up, but it was nothing that had to do with you. I was like, okay, thank you.
Okay, let me just say right now for the audience.
And I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
hanging
big
with Bo and doing these
Never,
lunches.
ever did Carl ever give me a tip on anything. The last son of a bitch that gave me a tip was we were doing the movie Casino with Nick Pileggi. And then they had this guy who was the handicapper. What's his name?
Rosenthal.
Rosenthal. So Nick gets him on the
Lefty
phone, and the
Rosenthal.
guy used to listen to Imus. He did Imus 34 years. So he gets, hey, Lefty Rosenthal. Hey, Lefty, how you doing? So this is when I was gambling. So I said, Lefty, I says, well, give me 12 picks for Sunday. 12. And I didn't ask for one. So this son of a gun, who was supposed to be the handicapper, gave me 12. If I tell you I lost all 12, 12 for 12, I called him back. He says, Lefty, lose my effing number. I hung up on him. I never talked to him again. But so we went through that gambling time. But you want to know, so I thank the good Lord. I've been out of that for at least 7 years, and it's good. But let's go back to you. Okay, you played Michigan State. Now, you had this thing called the draft. Okay, now which number did you pop up?
Number 3.
Number 3?
Yeah.
In the
so-
first round?
First round.
Whoa,
third
whoa,
player pick.
whoa, whoa. You mean The draft is there, and you were the third guy in the
Third
first
guy
rank.
selected. And the interesting thing about it, I didn't realize I was going to be drafted so high because then there was, not a lot of social media where the hype is around. And
today,
Michigan
it's like
State,
they're on
where
their
I was not very, I was good, but the team was not very good. So we didn't get a lot of national prominence. And so I had no idea that Bill Parcells was interested. He tells the story, it's like when he went to see me in the All-Star game, because he had already drafted LT, all the other coaches and scouts would follow him around to see who he's looking at.
Yeah.
And he said he had to intentionally go stand at a distance and watch me because he didn't want any other teams to even, he didn't want me on any other team's radar. Yeah.
They had some defense.
Wow.
But the interesting thing about that, when I was drafted, I didn't know a lot about the Giants because I was Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings because I'm a Midwest guy.
Midwest guy, yeah.
Chicago Bears. And so he drafted me. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I got to New York, and then I realized, shit, they got 3 all-pro linebackers.
I'm never going to play.
And the thing that stuck in my head is when the conversation with Bill Parcells was less than 10 seconds. Hey, kid, we drafted you. I didn't draft you to sit you on the bench. Somebody will give you a call to get you here.
Wow.
And that was it, right? So I show up. Once I do a little research, I'm like, sheesh, they got 4 all-pro linebackers. I believe in myself, but I didn't see how this was working out.
I got some competition here.
Right. So imagine my first day on the job. I walk up and I see the great Harry Carson and there's Lawrence Taylor, and they're just hanging out by the weight room. And I go introduce myself to Lawrence and Harry. Hey, Mr. Carson. Hey, Mr. Taylor. I'm Carl Banks. So Harry looks at me and said, I know who you are, and what the hell are you going to do to get on the field? I was like, oh, wow. These are real men here, I'm like, I thought I was going to be welcomed with open arms. They're like, no, you got to prove you belong here. So,
wow. Well, you had this other guy there, this other guy who cuts his sweatshirts at the arms, a guy named Bill Belichick.
He was a young guy. Now, think of this. We were, Bill Parcells had just come off his worst year, so he had to get a team turned around, and Bill Belichick was his linebacker coach and defensive coordinator. And Bill Belichick was a hard ass. He was tough in every phase. If he coached you,
he had no personality either.
Well, he's got one. You just don't know about it. He's got one outside of football, but he was all football. And the good news, or the good part about working with Bill Belichick, was that it was totally interactive. So he would give you something to do. He would tell you why it should work. If it didn't, and you told him, hey, look, I think we should, tweak it, and it made sense, he incorporated it.
Wow.
And that's how
he listened, too.
Oh, he was the best. But the beautiful part about the coaching staff and I've been blessed because I've only had one set of shitty coaches, and that was in Washington when I left the Giants.
Yeah.
All of my coaches from New York to Cleveland were all great teachers. They taught football. Mm-hmm. So you understand why you're doing something and why it should work, and everybody around you. So if it's the 3 of us and you had a thing to do, I had a thing to do, Carlo had a thing to do, if we all did it right, it was going to be pretty fucking hard for the other team to get anything done against us. Now it's a little different. You see some teams. That's why, listen, the Patriots haven't given up a touchdown on defense this year, right? And teams are hanging up a lot of points. They haven't given up. But you can't name me one player on their defense right now. Think about that. You can go around. Chicago Bears played last night. Trevathan, Khalil Mack, you name it.
Nobody's a star. It's a team.
Yeah. So they got a team that nobody knows their name. There's no household name, but they're good because they just play good, sound, fundamental football. And that's what Bill Belichick has always been about. Like, build a foundation based on sound fundamentals and just make sure everybody can do this, do their job as best they can.
So let's just stay with the Giants for now before we go into your apparel history. So now, what was it like in 1987 to win your first Super Bowl that you won.
Yeah. So we were, from my rookie year in '84, we were a wild card. We lost to the 49ers, and we just got better and better. But in '85, we went up against the Chicago Bears, and we thought we were the best defense in football. And we lost to them in that playoff game. And to a man, we're like, we got another level, and we're going to win this thing next year, because the Bears were just, a hair above where we were. And that was
who were some of the guys on the Bears?
Mike Singletary, Richard Dent, Otis Wilson, Dave Durison, Todd Shell, Wilbur Marshall. They were beasts. Dan Hampton. They were beasts, right? Yeah. And so we got it. Our offense couldn't do anything, and we got it handed to us. So the next year, we're like, we're going to be completely dominant. And so we went into that camp in '86, and there was no way we were going to be denied a Super Bowl. So we went in and we ran through the NFL. It was 14-2, I think, was our record. And we made a lot of those games look easy. Yeah, I think we went on a streak of quarterbacks not finishing the game.
Defense was great, but you had that blonde hair guy.
Yeah, that Phil Simms guy.
That blonde hair guy was throwing that ball around, that Phil Simms.
Yeah, Phil was, it's so interesting.
He's a friend of mine also, like yours. I love Phil and his kids.
Phil was a tough guy playing quarterback, but
you look at him,
he had a chip on his shoulder.
He looked like Opie. He looked like that kid. Yep. But he was one tough mother.
Yeah, and he was one skillful thrower of the football, and he never got credit. If he played in California or played in a Southwest climate, he'd put up numbers like Elway and those guys. But he had to deal on there. And at that time, in the Meadowlands, the wind whipped. And I've seen many a quarterback struggle when they came in, but he could throw the ball through the wind. He was he was our guy. Our type of
like
quarterback.
One big family.
Yeah,
there was
but
no
he was
dissension.
our type of quarterback. Yeah, he was a tough guy.
One thing I remember, there was none of this bullshit dissension about one guy wants to be a hot dogger and all that. They didn't have to say anything or do anything. They just said it on the field. And that's one thing I remember being around all my winners and champions over here with the Giants. Every one of them was a great guy. It wasn't me, it was us.
And the interesting thing about it, and this is how times have changed, right? So today's athlete, they're into the models and all of that stuff, which is good, right? We had the same culture. Like we had Palladium, Studio 54, you name it, right? And we had guys who like Sean Landetta, our punter, was notorious for dating Playboy models.
And I still see Sean.
He was on page 6 every other week.
Wow.
Right? Our guys, dated like supermodels and actresses and soap stars. But when we came to work,
they turned it on.
It was like all of that didn't matter. We weren't, I'm the guy who's dating so-and-so, or I'm the guy who's we came to work, and then after work, we enjoy life,
Business. But then, you won your second Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And what year was that? 1990, what was that?
1991, yeah.
1991. Yeah. And, you guys were just at your epitome there. The Giants were at the
89,
top.
we lost a heartbreaker to the Los Angeles Rams. Flipper Anderson caught a bomb on us.
These Rams this year.
Yeah.
That quarterback's pretty
Jared Goff is a good player. But we won that. We lost in '89, which we thought was our best team. And so 1990, we came back and we're like, hey, we won't be denied again.
And it was just one big, great Giant family. And I had the honor to be hosting them for lunch with Carl all through the late 80s there. And it was just fantastic. Yeah, and then let's talk about how you got involved with this apparel company. And what is the apparel? What's the name? What is it?
Okay, so if you go back to when I first started playing in 1984, by 1986, this brand called Starter came out, everybody had a starter jacket.
Starter, right?
If you Google John Gotti right now, you'll see him wearing LA Raiders starter jacket.
That was the hottest thing, and everybody wanted
Yeah.
all the teams. You didn't want,
Right. So this was before
the hats.
Nike was even prevalent. So Starter was the first company to take, I guess, the essence of fandom and make it a wearable experience. I was one of their first ambassadors or endorsees.
Did they pay you well, I hope?
It was fun. We got paid in
You
clothes
didn't-
and money.
You didn't answer
Clothes,
that.
clothes
well,
and cash.
Well and fun.
For that time, yes. For
well
that time,
and fun are two different things.
yes.
You see these
we
endorsement
were paid
deals.
well, and it was fun. For that period of time, you were paid well. Now it wouldn't be considered anything. But in doing so, I got a chance to really see what that industry was about, and I wanted to be a part of it. Spend some time with David Beckerman and kind of understood the passion for, really the presentation of sports and how it should look and how it should look on the field. They created all the jerseys and everything, and the sideline gear and the fan gear. And I was like, when I grow up, I want to be like that. And I started the next year and created a line of NFL leather coats. And, ultimately my goal was to be able to service sports like Starter did. And the opportunity came about 5 years ago that I was able to take the license for the brand and to reintroduce it.
Wow. How you doing
And
with
it's
that?
doing well. It's
Great.
doing well. And
I
have,
love the leather. I love the leather.
So
jacket.
I have my G3 Sports by Carl Banks. I have Starter. I have G3 for her. I'm doing DKNY for NFL. What else can I talk about? I'm doing Alyssa Milano's collection. Well, we partner with her to do that. It's touched by Alyssa Milano. And we got another one that we're going to announce real soon, too. So we got a
Right. I
couple.
mean,
I
you
actually got two more that we're going to announce.
You
real
can't
soon.
do, but you were still on the Giants.
I was doing this while I was still playing. Remember,
Right.
I started this in '87, and I've been doing it since.
Right, because you started to do a post show on WNEW, and had that
How
all
about
come
that?
out.
Yeah. So
you were still playing.
Yes.
And you had
That was in
team, How did
'87.
the team how did the team go along with that?
listen,
You catch shit on that?
when you're proactive and opportunistic, and I just happen to be a man of the people. And I don't know if I met him at one of our lunches or I did a kids event. I met an executive from Coca-Cola. And I had this idea of, hey, I want to do a radio show after we play, win or lose.
And talk
now,
about
keep
the
in
game,
mind,
yeah.
this is something else that had never been done before. Like now, post-game show and pre-game reports and
It's
all
all
of that
there,
stuff.
yeah, but then it wasn't.
No one
there.
ever did that. And so Coca-Cola said, okay, we'll sponsor your show.
wow.
I think it was WNEW at the time said that, okay, we'll give you some airtime. And so
Did you
after
get a
the game,
sponsor right away?
Yeah,
yeah,
Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola
They came right in.
came
best
right
sponsor you
in
get.
and they sponsored it. And I came, win or lose, I came up to the press box and I did a show post game to talk about the game.
Did you bring players on at that
Yeah,
time?
yeah.
And then you talk with players how you fucked up or whatever.
Well, we talked about it. Well, I've been known to be pretty frank about my analysts and my analyzation. So, but that was kind of the first
Well,
of
you
its
know
kind.
what? I can listen to you talk and give me the play-by-play all day long. You've walked the walk. You were one of the greatest of all times. I can't listen to some schmuck that never played football
Well-
describing what you do and what you did.
Well, it helps when you kind of when you know what's going on, but also having been coached by a guy like Belichick gives you real insight that you can share with
No,
people.
but when you say something like that, who's that little black guy? He's on everything on Channel 7, every sport. Little guy, he speaks very well. What the hell's his name? Short guy. He's on all the sports he does for ABC, for everything. Come on, guys.
I'm not sure.
College does professional fighting, everything. But I can't listen to him because he didn't walk the walk. He tells me about what's going on in the football field.
You know what, though? Just because they didn't play doesn't mean they don't know. Now, experience is the best teacher,
Yeah.
but if you've been around it long enough,
Mike Tirico.
Tirico's pretty good at what he does.
He speaks really well, but
No.
when he starts
Let me just say
yeah,
this.
again.
Tirico is really fucking good at what he does.
Okay, then you got it. Now
No. You can put Tirico in just about
he does
any
the
sport.
man. I mean, he does golf too.
He does F1 racing.
Yeah, but golf too. Now the guy can't hit the ball.
No. You don't know if you can't hit it. But I tell you this right now, Mike Tirico is one of the best in the fucking business.
Well, then I'm going to apologize right now.
You got to apologize.
I'm going
on
to
that one.
apologize
I thought
to Mike
you was
Tirico.
talking about some
Mike Tirico,
Joe Schmo.
He's a little short.
Listen, he could be 2 feet tall.
Yeah.
And sit on the top of a bunch of books, but I'm going to tell you what.
You know me a long time. I will apologize to Mike Tirico.
Do that because Tirico is a beast.
Please accept my apologies, Mike Tirico. I'm going to keep on listening because Carl Banks blessed you. That's down. That's it.
I don't care if he's 12 feet tall or 2 feet tall. Tirico is really, really,
he is
really
all
good.
over
Best
everything.
in the business. That's why. You know why? It ain't because of marketing. It's because he's good.
He knows everything about everything.
He's fucking good.
Wow.
No, Bo. He's good.
A strong man can say, "I'm sorry and I was wrong," and I am wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong on that one. I know what you were talking about. When you say Tirico, I'm like,
I'm gonna be a big cheerleader of his now.
Yeah.
And when it comes up on one of my other shows, I say, "Well, that is one of the most knowledgeable sportscasters that's out there."
Good.
That's
he's good. He goes from F1 racing to baseball. He's
to the Masters to everything.
Oh, he's good, dude.
Yeah.
He's really good.
Carl, let me ask you a question. So, were you always thinking about your life after football when you were, getting involved with the starter CEO and when you were doing this radio show? Were you kind of plant those seeds?
Well,
because you knew you wanted to set
let me
yourself
just
up?
tell you, it started again. I lived in Flint, so you don't take a lot for granted there. And I dug graves legitimately from junior high school till I graduated college.
Wow.
I worked at a cemetery and had a really good mentor there. And, you get the chance to think about more than just sports. And he always wanted me to focus on something beyond sports. And so not being good in college, my college teams were never good. I thought I was pretty good. Football and basketball player, but I didn't know where it was going to take me because you read about all the other schools and big names
You know
in
what
college.
percent of college football players become professional?
It's got to be really low, probably like 10.
No. It's less than 1% of all college football.
And so I don't know. And I wanted to play football, but I'm in communications and I thought I'd be writing commercials at an ad agency, to be honest with you. So
you like being on air. I
love it.
Yeah.
But I was really into writing and the whole creative process. And when I got drafted, I didn't take that for granted either. Obviously, from the first conversation I had with Harry Carson, it wasn't going to be easy. But I was determined to prove myself. But I always had my eye on something outside of sports because I just didn't know how long it was going to last.
All right, let's just talk about a little bit about the Giants with the whole controversy around one of the great wide receivers and all that.
Mm-hmm.
As far as where the Giants are today with losing him, it gets to a point where one person isn't the whole team. I love the idea about this new quarterback, maybe firing up guys pulling something out of them that's there, but this new regeneration of somebody fires everybody up. Hey, right, we're a football team, and I could do better because this kid's doing. I can feel it. I can feel it happening.
Well, rising tide floats all boats, and they hadn't been winning in a long time. And this was, kind of a shot of adrenaline for them. And, most people outside of the Giants organization thought the Giants were idiots for drafting the kid. And the Giants, obviously, he's proving them right just by his performance in one game. Now, he's got to put it together because the key for any quarterback to have success is consistency. So let's see. He's got one in a row, as Bill Parcells would say. Let's see if we can get another one and start to stack them. But
4 inches away,
Hey, those count too.
But listen to me, 4 inches away, we wouldn't have had the win, but he showed a lot.
Hey, they all count. Everybody gets paid to do a job, so they don't call the game off because the kicker should make it. You know what I mean? So
I thought I was watching. I was in a restaurant having dinner. I said, "We're finished."
Yeah, at the
well,
half,
you know,
they're
normally
down.
that's kind of how when you get so used to losing, you just lose hope sometimes when the obvious is there. But you know, those breaks, those type of games
Something
break.
that could turn.
Think about this in Philadelphia last year and in Carolina. The Giants lost 2 games on record-setting field goals that shouldn't even been hit. One was 63 yards. I don't know what the other one was, like 61. And so you're thinking, oh, the Giants got it in the bag, and this guy kicks it through. So you know, it's kind of evening itself out now.
Yeah, it's part of the game. So what do you think about with Beckham?
Well, I'm a big fan. You know,
I am too.
Here's the thing about Odell Beckham.
He's a kid. He
Well,
has to mature.
Like most, but he's a transcendent talent, meaning he can go to Mars and be great. Like he's not dependent on any team. He's just great, and you saw it against him when they played against the Jets. The decision to trade him was something, you know, if they asked me should they do it, I would have said no. I get, to a degree, well, they weren't winning with him and they, you know, can still do bad without him and they can get something for him. I still, to this day, think he would have been good, right? So
What
decisions
did they have
made,
to give up for him?
No, they gave up a first rounder. They gave up an offensive lineman who's doing really good for the Giants, and they got Jabril Peppers, the safety. So they got a lot of players for him. They got a draft choice. Listen, I root for the kid wherever he is. You know what I mean? He's a freaking transcendent talent.
Tremendous talent.
I'm sorry it didn't work out because I'd love to see him finish
Be
his
a
career
Giant,
as a New York Giant, the
Me too.
greatest receiver. He's going to go down in history as, barring injury, as the greatest receiver to play the game.
Wow.
So it didn't work. I wish it would have.
My friend Moss won't say that. Now, come on.
Well, you'll see.
Yeah.
You'll see. I think Randy recognizes greatness when he sees it too. But you know, I'm sorry it didn't work out with him and the Giants, but I'm always rooting for him
And we
because
got
he's a hell
to
of
pray
a,
that he
hell of a
stays
football
healthy.
player. Yeah.
Because that can stop a career right away.
Yeah.
Some of the greatest, probably football players, their careers were ended early.
We
Yeah.
see it with the people like Andrew Luck who retired early, and
Yeah, he took a beating.
Yeah.
I mean, his team didn't do him any favors.
Gronkowski. They're all
Yeah.
you know, thinking about their health.
That just real fast on that question. As far as with the concussions and all that, we all know it's real. All those hits mean something. Look at my friend, God rest his soul, Muhammad Ali. Everybody thought, oh, you never touched him. Bullshit. He got punched.
Sure.
Frazier punched the shit out of him. A lot of them did. And effectively, it brought that Alzheimer's on. And at the end, I was with him when he was just a shame. The greatest heavyweight champion of all times. Like on another planet, and I know there's a lot of football players that got some hits in the head, and it's real. It's real, right?
Yeah, I mean, football is a collision sport. I think that the NFL is doing a lot to kind of regulate the direct hits.
Yeah.
Can't deny that there are some effects to it because I see some guys that I've played with or I've watched on TV.
I did the investigation on Aaron Hernandez.
Oh, did you really?
A few murder investigations. I mean, he just totally lost his brain. I mean, he was gone,
Yeah.
check out. And that was, who knows, was it attributed to the times he was hitting it? I don't know.
We don't know, but what I do know is that there are some effects. I see some players who are cognitively fine at very old ages and others that are not. Now, you can say that with life in general, but life in general doesn't have car crashes every other play either.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be in denial that, hey, football, you can play it
It's a
and
tough
nothing
sport.
ever happens.
That's
It's a
why we
tough
watch
sport,
it.
but I think they're doing a good job of doing what they can without taking the contact out of the sport to keep those direct helmet-to-helmet hits at a
Yeah,
minimum.
well, I like that too. Now, I just can't see me watching on Sunday soccer. That
Well,
doesn't-
soccer, they use their head more than football players,
Yeah,
to be
well,
honest
when
with
they
you.
smash the guy in the nose with their
Yeah.
head, yeah. Now wait a second. I'm looking at your hands. Something's missing, Carl.
Yeah, I have Super Bowl rings. I keep them locked up, though.
Yeah. Wait. You had.
I have
two
Super Bowl.
rings?
I have two as a player.
Carl, you don't
And
know
hold
this
on,
story.
Hold on.
You may have only had one.
I won 2 Super Bowls as a player, and I have 2 as a broadcaster from the last 2 Super Bowls. But the story was
Let's just talk
my
about the
2
players.
Super Bowls as when I was a player. My 1989 Super Bowl ring was stolen. I went out to dinner, came back, and I normally keep them all in a safe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one was in the house. I don't know, maybe I was wearing it around or something. And I go to dinner, I come back, and I'm living in an affluent neighborhood, right? And my ring is missing.
Oh my
And
God.
I'm like, I look around like, shit, my house has been broken into. And I'm pissed. The other stuff had some value, but the ring had value. And so I don't know what to do. Police come, nothing we can do. So I said, all right, let me call my guy, Bo. So I called Bo that night. He said, I'll call you back in the morning. Next morning, he told me where to meet him to pick up my ring.
No, it gets a little better.
What kind of what?
It gets a little better.
If that's not a great friend, I don't know what is.
Well, here's what actually happened.
Well, you didn't tell me what actually happened. He just said, I'll call you back. He called me back and says, meet me here, and handed
I
me
think
my
it was
ring.
2 days later because I had to do something. Now, first of all, Mike the Russian, my dear friend, melts gold. So all these thieves, they when they do a burglary, they pop the diamonds out, they sell them. And his had marquee diamonds in it, 3 marquee diamonds. So then all of a sudden, Mike the Russian calls me up, and I said, Mike, keep a lookout, my friend there, number 58. I'll say 58. And he talks with a Russian accent. 58. He calls me, Bo, I got rings say 58, Carl Banks. I said, don't friggin' melt it. So I rushed to 47th Street. I look at it. I said, where's the effing diamonds? He goes, there was no diamonds. And probably Mike popped them out, but it doesn't make a difference. I said to Mike, listen to me. I want you to go to a good diamond guy. I want to put 3 of the same diamonds in there, marquee cut. So I call Carl up, and I said, let's go have lunch. And that's when I handed him this ring.
Yeah. Yeah, it was unbelievable, man. I'm like, basically 24 hours. He had it done. When he said, I'll call you back, he called me back. We had lunch. He handed me my ring.
Well, that happened one more time with my daughter, Dana. First day of school up there in 165th Street, Grand Concourse. First day is being a teacher in the South Bronx and teaching 3rd grade kids. And the next thing is she calls me up. The kids robbed her cell phone out of her pocketbooks. These are 3rd graders.
Yeah.
So now she's hysterical, crying. She was told, use a friend. I said, just calm down, calm down. So now I keep calling. Finally, this Hispanic guy answers the phone. I said, stay on the phone. I said, I'm a detective. I said, if you go off the phone, you get locked up. I said, where are you? I said, I'm a detective. So I said, you'll get a reward. So it was on the corner of Grand Concourse, I think 140th Street, whatever. So I told my guy, shoot over there. I said, if he has the phone, I says, give him $20, whatever the hell it is. And we got the phone back. My daughter couldn't believe I got the phone back. Another happenstance. But here was the deal. What I think was one of these kids probably came home, and the grandfather happened to be a really good-hearted person, say, where'd you get that from? Maybe smacked the kid in the ass and said, where'd you get it? And he probably said, from the teacher. So he wanted to give it back.
Yeah.
And my daughter got her phone back. So I got Carl Banks' Super Bowl ring, Dana's cell phone. I'm just like a miracle detective, huh?
Yep.
Bo's a hero, man. He's my hero anyway.
So we're wrapping up right now. First of all, Carl, you are my hero, and you ever need me, I'm always there.
Well, you always have been, and you've been an incredible and continue to be an incredible friend.
So we do one thing every week. We do a punk of the week. Now, it could be an issue, a circumstance, something that's bothering you
Oh, I
this
got the
week.
punk of the week.
Go ahead.
Antonio Brown.
Ooh.
Oof.
Antonio Brown. I've never. You were a gambler,
What
right?
he did after it is the punk
Listen,
of the week. Yeah.
You were a gambler.
Yes.
But I don't think you've ever set fire to $30 million in 24 hours.
Unbelievable.
This guy gets a $30 million guaranteed money in Oakland, and he found a way within 24 hours to screw himself out of that. Then he goes to New England and blows another $5 million because
He's finished.
That's the punk of the week.
He's the punk.
He's the punk of the
Wow,
week.
that's one of our best punks of the week. Wow,
Yeah.
compliments on your punk. What about you, Carlo?
He was on my fantasy team, so I have to.
He punked
concur.
you.
He punked me.
Yeah.
So
Well,
now I
yeah.
got to get a starting receiver. Got to.
Well, my punk of the week is the investigation that we were doing with the Swiss banks of not returning Holocaust money to the Jewish people that were exterminated by Adolf Hitler, and they never were held to task. People had accounts in there in World War II. And did you ever wonder why Hitler never bombed Switzerland? I understand it was neutral. That was bullshit, because all these Nazis had gold and money and accounts in Switzerland.
Wow.
And that's my punk of the week. These Swiss banks who never opened up those accounts, and there was over 25 billion of American money in these Swiss accounts that nobody ever knew. So in other words, if you made $100 million on your apparel, you put it in your account in Switzerland, you don't have to pay any taxes, these son of a gun.
Yeah.
So they're my punks of the week, the Swiss banks. And that's it. But wrap it up, Carl.
All right, Carl. Where can people find you? Where can people get your
Yeah.
apparel?
Yes.
do we get some of
so
this
you
stuff?
can find me on Twitter at Carl Banks GIII, Instagram Carl Banks GIII, starter.com. You can find my gear or fanatics.com.
Fanatics, all
yeah.
right.
Wow. Now, I want to get one of those bomber jackets. Where
I
do
got
get
you.
it? Where do I get it? No, I
Just
buy.
tell me where do I send
No, I
it?
buy.
Where
no,
do
I
you want me to drop it off at Rails?
No, I buy.
Where do you want me to bring it?
Only if you're going to eat meatballs with me.
I'll eat meatballs
You'll
with
eat
you.
dinner.
I'll
Well,
eat
Carlo,
Dino's
you'll
meatballs.
arrange a dinner with Carl, please.
And I'll bring the bomber.
No, you don't have to. I'll buy it online.
No, I'll bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love bomber jackets, man.
I know you do.
I like the distressed looking ones. Carl, you're the
I
man.
got you, brother.
And I'm going to give you some love when we finish. And thank you so much.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
All
All
right.
right. You can find us. We're at One Tough Podcast on Twitter. Bo is at Bo Deedle on Twitter and The Real Bo Deedle on Instagram. You can email us any questions, comments, guest suggestions. We read all the emails. onetoughpodcast@gmail.com. We got a great fall lined up with more great guests. Stay listening, and we'll see you next week.